Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of the Jordan Tatum 2. So of course this is Jayson Tatum's second signature shoe with Jordan brand, and here is his first signature shoe, which was actually pretty dang nice. But as far as design goes, for the actual aesthetics is very similar, I guess, right? He likes this kind of like sidewall, you know what I mean? But how it feels and performance wise is actually quite different. So the Tatum 2 retails for 125 bucks, and it is available on Nike.com in this colorway. So if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave in the free link in the description box. If you guys do choose to buy this shoe, it does help me out if you use the link in the description box or the product tag that's right underneath this video. So thank you guys always for all the support, but let's get it started right off with the traction. So the traction is pretty interesting, right? So in the first shoe, we had just 2 pods of rubber here in the forefoot, right? They were trying to save a lot of weight, and then the rest of the outsole is just foam. But here in the Tatum 2, they kind of did the same thing, but there is more rubber, right? So we have a rubber pod here in the heel, here in the forefoot, and also this black part, and also at the tip of the toe seems to all be rubber, right? And also this pod right here. But then the rest of everything, right, like right here, this part that's kind of going around this rubber part, same thing here in the heel, this is all foam, right? So how is the traction? So when I first got it, it actually wasn't that nice. So for the first couple of days, the traction was not amazing. I mean, it was biting a little bit, but it wasn't great, you know what I mean? I definitely wanted to play in other shoes like the AE1 or something like that, even the books had a really good traction. But once I broke it in, actually on a clean court, it's not that bad. It has a solid bite. I wouldn't say it's top tier, but it's actually, once you break it in, it does get really good. So the bite on the clean court is actually pretty dang good, but of course not top tier. But the issue with the traction is on a dusty court, right? I don't know if you guys can see, but look at all this dust on here, right? All the dog hair on here as well. Hopefully it's coming out on camera. I don't know, but it does pick up a lot of dust, right? It picks it up very quickly, and it's affected by dust a good amount, right? One good thing about it though is that it's a very easy wipe. So you just do 1 to 2 easy slight wipes and you're good to go, and you have good stops again. But again, like I said, it picks up dust very quickly, so you're gonna have to wipe your shoe a lot, especially if you're playing on a super dirty court. So just be careful on that. And it's probably due to how flat the grooves are, you know what I mean? Like look at this, there's not even that many grooves, it's just more flat for the outsole pattern. You guys see that? So it's just weird. I don't know. I don't really understand the design. And same thing with the Tatum 1. The Tatum 1 was not good on dust. Same thing with the Tatum 2. So that kind of sucks. And as far as durability goes, you should be fine. The rubber is very hard. The grooves are really thick, right? And also pretty deep, especially where the pods are. So you should be okay on an outdoor court. Just be careful where the actual foam is. You know what I mean? The exposed foam here, I don't think will be very durable, but that's not really a super high wear area. So you should be fine on an outdoor court. And that was the Achilles heel for this shoe for me, right? The traction wasn't great. When I was playing on a clean court, however, it was actually pretty dang nice. But for the most part, I do play on a dusty court, and I didn't really have an amazing time. If I kept up with my wipes, I didn't really mind it all too much, and it never got really dangerous. Like I wasn't sliding out like crazy. It just wasn't like a good bite. But still, like comparing it to shoes that I really like playing in, like the AE1, the AR1, the Jaw 1, the issue with the dust performance wasn't the best, right? And now moving on to the heel toe transition, it's actually pretty okay, it actually is quite a bit stiffer than the Tatum 1, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice rounded shape and also pretty much fully exposed heel, right, with this foam. And so it's not super clunky, it's actually quite smooth here in the heel. And then coming here to the forefoot, we have a nice curved shape. Look at that, right? And then we have a good amount of forefoot flex, right? So when you first get it, it is actually quite stiff, but once you break it in, look at how easily it bends now, right? It's not super springy, it's a little springy but not super springy, you know what I mean? So overall, heel to toe transition with the shape is nice, and then it does spring you forward just a tiny bit but not that much. So overall, it does feel smooth when you're doing heel dominant strides down the court and out of the first step, comparing to the Tatum 1, which is, look at that, this is just, I could do it with 1 finger. That's how flexible it is. So there is a huge difference there. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. The cushioning setup is also pretty dang nice, right? So this shoe has a full length air strobel unit, which is pretty dang different from the Tatum 1, which had a very large volume zoom unit here in the forefoot, right? So I personally really like air strobel, you know what I mean? It's not Obviously, it's not as bouncy as Zoom, but there is a little bit of bounce once you start going, once you start sprinting and stuff like that, jumping. It does get a little bit bouncier. It's more just soft. And there's not as much like pressure. There's not as much PSI comparing it to Zoom. Zoom, when you stand on it for a while, it does get a little uncomfortable. But for Air Strobel, I can, you know, stand on it for a while and I have no issues with that. So it's step and comfort, and underfoot cushioning is really, really nice. It's super comfortable. There's a good amount of compression in the heel, midfoot, forefoot, because it is full length. And also here in the heel, there is a little bit of compression, just a tiny bit. It's not anything crazy. You know, this foam is mostly stiff. But it's not terrible, and it's actually a lot better than like a cage. You know, a lot of shoes have been just putting like a plastic cage here in the heel, caging the foam, but they didn't do that here in the Tatum 2, which I do appreciate. So overall impact protection is really nice. You know, heel strikes, you should be fine. Landing in the forefoot, I was okay too. Underfoot cushioning is great. Court feel overall is pretty good. I would say it's a little bit better than average. It's not amazing for court feel, but it's not bad either. So I really like the cushioning setup. The only thing that it isn't is that it's not super bouncy, but everything else, like every other category, it does really well, like court feel, impact protection, underfoot cushioning. So it's overall a really nice cushioning setup, especially for $125, right? Now moving on to the upper. The upper is something that I really like about the Tatum 2, right? So it's this like textile material, and it's not like super glued down. It feels like maybe a little bit. It is a little flimsy, right? Even if you do break in it is a little flimsy still, but it's still very, very nice, right? It's super supportive. There's no stretch to it, and it's overall very, very sturdy, right? It also doesn't really move around too much, but still like conforms to your foot somewhat well. It's overall thin too. So yeah, it does everything very well, right? For me, like in what I want in an upper. So, you know, it's thin, it's supportive, it conforms to my foot somewhat well. So I had no issues with the material, and also the quality is not that bad, especially for $125 comparing to the Tatum 1 with this mesh material. I really like the Tatum 2 material, especially here in the forefoot. And then here in the midfoot, they actually add another layer of this textile material as well, right? Look at this on the lateral side, and also I guess on the medial side a little bit here, kind of wraps around, it looks like, right from here all the way into here. But yeah, that does stiffen up the midfoot a little bit more, right? And so it's still like sturdy feeling in the midfoot. And then for the tongue, we have a nice bit of padding. It's not super well padded. I would just say an average amount of padding. And it's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And then here in the ankle area, however, it's super duper cozy. There's a lot of padding, which feels really nice. It feels very comfortable here in the back of the shoe, which I do appreciate, right? So overall, I really like it. And also on the lateral side here is the most striking feature about the Tatum 2. We have foam and textile pods, right? So this, I guess, is a textile material. And I guess this is foam, right? It feels like more of a foam. And then this black part, it just feels like a plastic material even, almost, you know what I mean? But anyways, that's also for support, which we'll get into. But overall on foot, especially once you break it in, it does get a little bit softer with this textile. It feels really nice, and I really like it for quality too. And also another thing I really like is the extra padding here in the ankle areas. Moving on to the fit, I went up half a size, and this shoe fits me extremely well, right? So lengthwise, there definitely is a little bit of length, but here in the toe box, it is extremely narrow, especially once you get to the tip of the toe. So I could definitely feel my foot, you know, squeeze a little bit, you know what I mean? So just be careful with that. It wasn't a huge deal for me, probably because I went up half a size, but it was still a little narrow. So just be careful with that. Here in the toe box, it's also pretty snug, which I do like. So yeah, if you still want a snug fit, then you should be okay going up half a size. And I would recommend most people do go up half a size. If you go true to size, it'll be pretty dang snug. But if you want a really, really snug fit, and I guess if you have like a really skinny foot, then you should be fine going true to size. But for me, going up half a size was very, very nice, right? And also another thing that I noticed is here in the midfoot, it does get really narrow as well, right? This just kind of curves in, and I got a blister on the arch of my foot, which has never really happened before, you know what I mean? So also it does feel pretty narrow in the midfoot, right? So there's the fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown. Support and lockdown is significantly improved here in the Tatum 2, right? So for lateral containment, I was good to go, right? So as far as lateral counters go, you are covered here in the forefoot, I guess, at the beginning of the midfoot / forefoot, and then here in the midfoot and also here in the heel, there's a very prominent internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment, my foot is not coming out of the footbed at all, right? So that's really good. And also another thing that's really good about the shoe is how supportive it is with this, you know, textile material and all the overlays and stuff like that. So this feels really sturdy, and my foot just felt locked into the shoe. It didn't feel like it was moving around or anything like that when I was playing. So overall support was really good, especially comparing to the Tatum 1s, right? The Tatum 1 1, your foot wasn't coming out of the footbed, you know, but with this mesh material, it's just super duper soft, and my foot was just moving around inside of the shoe a lot. And also comparing that with all the torsional support that's not there, comparing it to the Tatum 2, which is like really good for that, it just felt a lot more sturdy, a lot more stable, and also a lot more grounded, you know. So it's very, very good for support here in the Tatum 2. Also, lateral stability was very good, you know. It's a wide base. You can see that this part does protrude out a good amount here in the forefoot. You have a very flat base as well, so lateral stability was good. And my foot felt locked in, you know. I didn't have any type of heel slippage or anything like that, so I really liked the support and lockdown, which was significantly improved coming from the Tatum 1. So there's the support and lockdown there. And moving on to the weight, so Jordan Brand is calling the Tatum 2 the lightest basketball shoe in their lineup, you know what I mean? And the Tatum 1 was the lightest basketball shoe of last year, not in just Jordan Brand's lineup, but just in any basketball shoe. This shoe was super duper light, coming in at 10.8 ounces, right? But the Tatum 2, they're saying it's the lightest basketball shoe, but it's definitely a lot heavier than the Tatum 2, coming in at 12.05 ounces, right? Let's check the other shoe. This shoe is 12.15 ounces, right? So just like around 12.1 ounces. That's a little bit lighter than average. And yeah, they did you know, put on some weight comparing to the Tatum 1, like more than an ounce, right? But it still feels pretty lightweight, which of course is a good thing. It feels pretty minimal as well, not super minimal because of the extra padding here in the ankle area, but that feels really nice and cozy and comfortable. And just how it feels overall really nice and responsive, especially when I was playing on a clean court. I really like playing in it when I was on a clean court, right? But once I played on a dusty court, then it started to slide around and wasn't the best. You know, like I said, once I kept up with my wipes, it wasn't terrible, but I had to wipe a lot. You know what I mean? So just be careful on that. But for the most part, support's great, lockdown's great, cushion's low to the ground overall, and it does feel very comfortable. So it's a really nice shoe to play in, however, right? So there's that. Moving on to the ventilation, nope. There's really no airflow through this upper at all. However, it is quite thin, so it doesn't really keep in heat that much, you know, for example, like in the Harden Volume 7. So that's good. However, it's not the best for ventilation. I would say it's like pretty average, right? So there's that. Moving on to the aesthetics, still not a huge fan, guys. I really don't like this design. You know what I mean? This looks terrible. I don't know why they added it on the medial side as well. You don't need it here. You know, I feel like that adds a little bit of extra weight probably, right? But you know, some colorways, it looks okay. And also on foot and in hand, the shoe looks a lot better than just in pictures. So I would say it's okay, you know what I mean? I feel like I like the 1 better, you know? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, I was pretty impressed with this shoe because at first I wasn't liking it all too much, but then like, you know, once I broke it in, it got better. And there definitely were some days where I enjoyed it, you know? For example, like when I was playing on a really clean court. And also I'm pretty impressed with the lightweight feel of the overall shoe, but also how supportive this shoe is, right? You know, lightweight and supportive usually don't go hand in hand, but the Tatum 2 does that really well too. So if you're a guard, you should be okay, especially if you're playing on a clean court. You just got to break it in a little bit. But if you're playing on a dusty court, probably not recommended fully by me. But one thing though is that if you're a bigger dude, I definitely feel like you'll enjoy the shoe, right? The cushion super duper nice. The traction overall is somewhat good, you know what I mean? But you know, I feel like big dudes don't really need as much traction, you know? And the support's there, lockdown's great. So I feel like this shoe is actually pretty dang good for bigger dudes. Guards, I feel like it should be fine. Like I said, just make sure if you need really good traction, especially on a dusty court, this is not the best option, right? So anyways, that about concludes my performance review of the Jordan Tatum 2. Again, if you guys want to cop, I try to leave the free link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.